Hello everyone, I am Yogini Shweta Mishra and today we are going to start our second unit, that is Introduction to Yoga Text. The first chapter is Introduction and Study of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, including memorization of selected sutras. The term yoga is derived from the root word yuj, which has two main meanings, union and concentration. In the sense of union, it is understood the world over as the union of the individual soul with the universal soul. This meaning is found neither in yoga philosophy nor in Sankhya philosophy, on which yogic practices are based. Yoga ideally can be understood as concentration. Yogic concentration is a quality of the mind. Wherever the mind goes, or it is the second nature of the mind. To be yogic means to be concentrated. This concentration gradually facilitates awareness and leads to pure awareness, the goal of yoga. Incidentally, samadhi, in the sense of concentration, is the means of reaching the goal of samadhi, which is the ultimate anga of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. In the sense of union, yoga can be better understood as integration of the various elements of human personality, leading to a wholesome, harmonious and holistic personality. Concentration is a quality of mind in all its manifestations. Based on the parameters of concentration, the human mind or chitta is categorized into 5 types. Chitta, that is rajas dominated, restless; mukt, that is tamas dominated; vikshipta, rajas dominated but slight sattva guna distracted; ekagra, sattva dominated; and then comes nirodha, that is gunas transcended, arrested. So 5 parameters of concentration are chipta, mood, vikshipta, ekagra and nirodha. Yoga begins in the concentrated state of chitta, that is ekagrata. Patanjali defines yoga in his second sutra as yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the stoppage of mental modifications. These modifications of the mind or chitta are called as vritti. Every vritti generates sanskaras, which in turn result in karma, which again generates sanskaras. The chain of vritti, sanskara, karma, vritti is unending, and it keeps a human being bound to life, death, rebirth cycle. Human life is full of sufferings, and if one has to become free from these sufferings, one has to be liberated from the chain of life, death, rebirth cycle. Therefore, it is essential to stop the chitta vrittis. That is why yoga is defined as chitta vritti nirodha. Chitta vikshepas refers to distractions of the mind. Because yoga can be considered as concentration, distractions of the mind can be considered as obstacles on the path of yoga. Patanjali gives the term antaraya as distractions or obstacles on the path of yoga. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, chapter 1, Sutra 30 says, Vyadhistyan sanshay, pramad alasya avirati, bhranti darshan, alabdha bhumikatva, anavasthitatva, chitta vikshepa te antarayah. Patanjali names 9 obstacles or antarayas, which are as follows. The first one is vyadhi, that is physical diseases. Second is tyana, that is mental languor or lethargy or listlessness. The third one is sanshay, doubt or suspicion, pramad, heedlessness or misplaced priorities, alasya, physical laziness, avirati, stubborn attachment to sense objects, Bhranti Darshan, illusion or delusion or misunderstanding or wrong understanding, Alabdha Bhumikatva, that is non-attainment of firm ground, Anavasthitatva, that is non-maintenance of a firm ground. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, chapter 1, Sutra 31 says, Dukh Dharmanasya Angamejayatva Shwas Prashwas Vikshepa Sahabhuvah. As already mentioned, Patanjali describes Pranava Japa for getting rid of these obstacles. Patanjali also says that these antarayas are invariably accompanied by some signs and symptoms. Vikshepa or Sahabhuvas. These accompaniments are as follows. Dukh Dharmanasya Angamejayatva Shwas Prashwas, that is unhappiness, despair or bad state of mind. Angamejayatva is tremors in the body. Shwas Prashwas is erratic breathing pattern. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Sutra number 32 says Tat Pratishedha Artham Eka Tattva Abhyasa. In order to deal with these accompaniments, Patanjali prescribes Ekatva Abhyasa, that is, practice of one principle. This principle is, in very general terms, can be understood as the Ashtangas of Patanjali's Yoga. Sutra number 33 of chapter 1 says, Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Dukha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatas Chitta Prasadanam. Chitta Prasadan technique is one of the most practical and effective techniques prescribed by Patanjali for bringing about peace and calmness, serenity and tranquility, clarity, etc. in the mind. This technique involves taking 4 different approaches, attitudes towards 4 different types of people or qualities of people. Patanjali says, develop friendship with happiness or happy people. Develop compassion towards unhappiness or those who are suffering. Take delight or joy towards virtues or virtuous people. Be equanimous towards vices or people exhibiting negative qualities. In our day-to-day life, the mind becomes disturbed because we invariably take exactly the opposite approach to what is prescribed above by Patanjali. For example, we shy away from friendship with people who are happier than us. We show pity rather than compassion towards those who are suffering. We start comparing ourselves with or become jealous of people who are endowed with virtues or good qualities. And we become emotionally disturbed when facing people who have negative qualities. Incidentally, this technique of Chitta Prasadana with its 4 approaches can be advantageously applied towards even the same individual with whom we are living with when he or she goes through the various 4 steps, that is happiness, unhappiness, virtuous and vicious. In addition to the above Chitta Prasadana technique, Patanjali also describes another Chitta Prasadana technique wherein he says Pracharadana Vidharanabhyam va pranasya, or the mind becomes prasadana when there is retention after forceful expulsion of breath. This is the sutra in which Patanjali for the first time in his sutras brings about the connection between breath and mind. Exhalation and external retention are always relaxing and soothing. Patanjali also gives 4 more sutras wherein he explains the techniques for bringing about stability of the manas. These sutras are chapter 1, 35 to 39 are referred to as Manasthiti Nibandhini Sutras. Patanjali Yoga Sutra chapter 2 Sutra number 3 says Avidya Asmita Raga Dvesh Abhiniveshah Panchakleshah. That is, Avidya, Asmita, Rag, Dvesh, Abhinivesh are the Panchakleshas. The word klesha is derived from the root word klesh, which means pain. Therefore, kleshas are what generate pain in our experiences. Kleshas can be understood as inborn mental afflictions. Man is born with kleshas. Kleshas are mental in nature. Man is afflicted with them. Patanjali says there are 5 such kleshas as given in the sutra above. Of these 5, avidya or ignorance of our real nature can be considered as the mother klesha. Avidya is the ground or source of the other 4 kleshas. Asmita refers to I amness or ego. Raga refers to attachment or liking. Dvesha refers to aversion or dislike. And Abhinivesha refers to clinging to life or fear of death. These kleshas invariably accompany our vrittis, thereby generating pain for us. If the vrittis are akleshta or not accompanied by kleshas, then they do not entangle us in the vicious circle of vrittis, sanskaras, karma, vrittis and sanskaras. By saying that kleshas are mental in nature, we understand that they are natural tendencies we are born with. Avidya is taking as eternal, pure happiness and the self that is non-eternal, impure, unhappiness and non-self respectively. Thus, avidya is false knowledge or contrary knowledge rather than ignorance in the sense of absence of knowledge. Raga is attachment towards that which produces pleasure. Dvesha is aversion towards that which produces pain. Abhinivesha is clinging to life or fear of death, which afflicts even the wise. Patanjali says, when the root of kleshas is present, the storehouse of our karmas fructifies into future lives. Also, due to the presence of these kleshas, the karma sanskaras give rise to birth in specific life forms, lifespan, and our bundle of pleasure and pain in that life. It is not of our experiences per se which are problematic. They become problematic only because of the presence of the kleshas. These kleshas manifest in human beings in 4 degrees: prasupt, that is dormant; tanu, that is weak; vichinna, oscillating; and udar, that is abundant. Patanjali prescribes the practice of Kriya Yoga, that is Tap, Swadhyay and Ishwar Pranidhan, for making the kleshas tanu in us from an udara or vichinna state. He then prescribes dhyana or meditation and pratiprasava or involution for finally getting rid of the kleshas. Now comes Ashtanga Yoga, practice, purpose, significance and effects. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, chapter 2, 29th sutra says, Yam Niyam Asan Pranayam Pratyahar Dharana Dhyana Samadheyo Ashtavangani. Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras propounds yoga with 8 limbs, that is Ashtanga Yoga. These 8 limbs as given in the above sutra are as follows. The first one is Yam. Yamas refers to the observances and restraints that regulate our interaction with others. Hence, they take care of our social equation. The 5 yamas given by Patanjali are as follows. First is ahimsa, or non-violence in thoughts, words and deeds. The second one is satya, that is truthfulness. Third one is asteya, that is non-stealing of material as well as non-material things. Fourth one is brahmacharya. In a very narrow context, this is understood as celibacy or sexual abstinence. However, it can be understood as moderation in sensual and sexual pleasures. Etymologically, it refers to walking on the path of truth. Fifth one is aparigraha, or non-possessiveness or non-hoarding. These 5 yamas are normally prescribed by all religions. However, Patanjali distinguishes himself when he exhorts to comply with these yamas irrespective of jati, desh, kal and samay. In other words, Patanjali has taken away all our excuses of not following the yamas. Second is niyamas. Niyamas refers to observances and restraints which govern an individual's personal life. Therefore, they can be said to govern the personal equation. These niyamas are as follows. Shauch, that is physical and mental purity or hygiene. Santosh, that is contentment, an ever-present happy state of mind. Tap, austerities, penances, vows, etc. Fourth one is swadhyay, that is self-study. This may comprise study of scriptures, following the Guru's dictates, listening to discourses of saints, wise people, satsang, company of truth or like-minded people, etc. The fifth one is Ishwar Pranidhana, that is complete surrender to God. The third anga of Ashtanga Yoga is asanas. Patanjali devotes only 3 sutras for asanas out of his 195 sutras. He defines asana as sthir sukham asanam, that is, asana is a posture which is stable and comfortable. Patanjali's emphasis is on meditative asanas which should be stable and comfortable for carrying on meditation undisturbed for a decent period of time. As regards methodology of doing asanas, Patanjali says, Prayatna Shaithilya Ananta Samapattibhyam. In the performance of asanas, efforts have to progressively reduce and the mind should be attuned to the concept of infinity. In other words, asana performance should be graceful and mind should be concentrated. As regards the effects of asanas, Patanjali says, Tataha dvanda anabhigyatah. From that, asanas, there is no assailment from conflicts. In other words, the effect of asanas, according to Patanjali, is mental in nature, that is, freedom from conflicts. The fourth anga of the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali is pranayama. The orientation of pranayama in Patanjali is more towards inhalation and exhalation rather than towards retention, as is done in Hatha Yoga. Patanjali says that pranayama happens when there is a break in the pace between inhalation and exhalation. Accordingly, he talks about 4 types of pranayams: modification of inhalation, modification of exhalation, the stoppage of breath as a modification, and the 4th, which transcends the subject matter of inhalation and exhalation. According to Patanjali, pranayama practices make the mind fit for dharana. Also, due to pranayama practices, the shroud of impurities covering the spark of reality in us is diminished to the point of disappearance. Pratyahara, that is the 5th anga of Ashtanga Yoga. Pratyahara refers to withdrawal of sense organs from their respective objects, like the tortoise withdrawing its limbs into the safety of its shell. Pratyahara forms the bridge between the first 4 limbs, that is, they are commonly known as the Bahiranga Yoga, and the last 3 limbs, which are commonly known as the Antaranga Yoga. In other words, Pratyahara marks the transition of the mind from its extrovertedness to inward going process. The 6th anga of the Ashtanga Yoga is dharana. Patanjali defines dharana as deshabandha chittasya dharana, confinement of the chitta to one desh is dharana. Dharana means concentration. This is the first stage of meditation in Patanjali's yoga. In an earlier sutra, Patanjali says that meditation can be done on any object. The only condition is that the meditator should be favorably disposed towards the object of meditation or like the object. Dhyana. Dhyana means meditation. Patanjali defines dhyana as tatra pratyaya ekanta dhyanam. Therein, when there is wretchedness of only one experience, it is dhyana. In dharana or concentration, all the efforts are directed towards keeping distractions away. When these efforts succeed and there are no distractions, that state of mind is the state of dharana. Now comes the final 8th fold of Ashtanga Yoga, that is Samadhi. Samadhi refers to spiritual absorption. Patanjali defines Samadhi as tat eva arthamatra nirbhasam swarupashunyam eva samadhi. That itself is Samadhi when the self nature is as if not there and the object shines forth or reveals itself. In both dharana and dhyan, there are 3 elements: the meditator, the object meditated upon, and the process of meditation. In the state of Samadhi, the meditator and the process of meditation as if disappear, and only the object of meditation shines forth. Patanjali explicitly mentions three types of samadhis, namely Sabit Samadhi, Nirbit Samadhi, and Dharmamegha Samadhi. It is the last stage named Samadhi that Kaivalya happens, wherein Chitta Vritti Nirodha finally takes place. The three angas, that is Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, together comprise meditation in Patanjali's yoga, and when they happen together, it is referred to as Sanyam by Patanjali. It is this Sanyam which leads to the various Siddhis or Vibhutis in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. The practice of Ashtanga Yoga, according to Patanjali, when done with fervor and determination, leads to diminution to the point of disappearance of impurities, the illumination of knowledge which develops to the point of Vivekhyati, enlightened discrimination between Purush and Prakriti. So with this, I am mentioning some of the important sutras of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The first one is from the first chapter, that is Samadhipada. The first sutra is Atha Yoga Anushasanam. The second sutra is Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. चित्त की वृत्तियों का निरोध ही योग है. The third one is तदा दृष्टु स्वरूपे अवस्थानम. उस समय दृष्टा की अपने रूप में स्थिति हो जाती है. The fourth important sutra is sutra number 4, that is वृत्ति सारूप्य मितरत्र. दूसरे समय में वृत्ति के सदृश स्वरूप हो जाता है. The fifth sutra of first chapter is वृत्तयः पंचतयः क्लिष्टा अक्लिष्टा, which mentions about the 5 vrittis of mind, which are in klisht and aklisht forms. The sixth sutra is Praman Viparya Vikalp Nidra Smritayah. These are the 5 vrittis: Praman, Viparya, Vikalp, Nidra, Smriti. ये 5 वृत्तियाँ हैं. Then comes the 7th sutra, that is प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान आगमः प्रमाणानि. These are the types of praman vritti: pratyaksh, anuman and agam. Now comes the next sutra which is important in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra is Abhyas Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha. That is the 12th sutra of chapter 1, which says वृत्तियों का, चित्त की वृत्तियों का निरोध अभ्यास और वैराग्य से होता है. The 13th sutra is तत्र स्थितो यत्नो अभ्यासः. उन दोनों में से चित्त की स्थिरता के लिए जो प्रयत्न करना है वो अभ्यास है. Now the next sutra which is important in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra chapter 1 is the sutra number 30, that is व्याधिस्त्यान संशय प्रमाद आलस्य अविरति भ्रांति दर्शन अलब्ध भूमिकत्व अनवस्थितत्वानि चित्त विक्षेपास्त अंतरायाः. This sutra, as already mentioned earlier in my lecture, that this sutra number 30 describes about the various antarayas or the distractions of the mind. in the path of yoga. Sutra number 31 is Dukh Dormanasya Angamejayatva Shwas Prashwasa Vikshepa Sahabhuvah. I already mentioned this one also, that Sutra number 31 are the 5 Sah Antarayas in the path of yoga, the distractions. Now comes Sutra number 33, that is Matri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Dukha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanataschitta Prasadanam. सुख दुखी पुण्यात्मा और पापात्मा ये चारों किस जिनके क्रम से विषय हैं, ऐसी मित्रता, दया, प्रसन्नता और उपेक्षा की भावना से चित्त स्वच्छ हो जाता है. So these are the important sutras of chapter 1 Samadhipada, from which needs to be memorized and needs to be understood very well in the chapter. So with this we are concluding our first chapter, that is Introduction and Study of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Thank you.